Good Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. Just in this morning, Israel says a ceasefire will take effect within 24 hours of a vote on phase 1 of a ceasefire deal with the Hamas terrorist group. Part of that deal means Israeli hostages taken more than 2 years ago in the October 7th attacks will be freed. That's expected to happen over the next few days. It also means Israeli troops will begin getting out of Gaza. Alice Barr has the latest developments from Washington.
Celebrations across Israel and the Gaza Strip as word spread of a deal to free the remaining hostages from Hamas captivity in Gaza, pause the fighting and see Israel withdraw its troops to what President Trump called an agreed-upon line. He spoke overnight on Fox News about a conversation with Israel's prime minister.
I said, Israel cannot fight the world, baby. They can't fight the world. And he understands that very well. So it's amazing the way it's all come together, and it's a beautiful picture.
That following dramatic moments during an event earlier Wednesday when Secretary of State Marco Rubio handed the president a note and a whispered message.
I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East.
The Israeli cabinet set to vote today on the peace plan President Trump advanced. Approval would trigger the pullback of Israeli forces, with hostages expected to be released on Monday, according to a senior White House official.
What do you guys have to say to President Trump? Thank you.
Family members of some of the remaining 48 hostages sharing their gratitude to President Trump and their determination to see the deal through.
We will not stop fighting until we see the last of the 48 return to their family.
20 of those hostages are believed to still be alive and would be the first returned in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and desperately needed aid into Gaza. Israel and Hamas so far only agreeing to phase 1 of a 20-point plan to bring a final end to 2 years of devastating war. The rest of the peace deal is even trickier, especially the requirement for Hamas to disarm and leave power. And of course, determining a future for Gaza, now in ruins. President Trump said he may travel to the Middle East as soon as this weekend, with peace talks ongoing in Egypt. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Breaking overnight in Chicago, thousands of protesters on the streets overnight as the National Guard begins protecting federal property. All this comes just a few hours before a hearing on a lawsuit filed by the city and the state. Michelle Beck's at the live desk breaking it all down for us.
As this court schedule right here shows, there's a hearing at 11 a.m. bound to get a lot of attention. It's over the request from Illinois and the city of Chicago to block the president's deployments, and we'll soon learn what a judge has to say about all that. And filing their response to this late yesterday, Trump administration officials are defending their decision to deploy troops, citing violence against ICE and federal property in the Chicago area. And for failing to protect ICE officers, President Trump says the Chicago mayor and Illinois governor should be in jail. The mayor responding this way, quote, "This is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. I'm not going anywhere."
This president has intentionally worked to escalate violence in the city of Chicago and cities across America. We're just simply defending our fundamental right to our democracy.
In Chicago, we had a 10-car caravan trail our ICE officials and pin them down. And any elected official that allows this to happen and gives cover to those kind of individuals who are perpetuating murder should absolutely be prosecuted, in my opinion.
And to be really clear about the troops' mission in Chicago, I found this update online for the U.S. Northern Command. It says roughly 500 soldiers from Texas and Illinois were activated and mobilized initially for 60 days. They're supposed to protect ICE and other government officials, also federal property. Back to you.
Effects from the government shutdown are slowly creeping into Minnesota. At MSP Airport, everything's running smoothly, but 2 flights were canceled overnight. In the last 12 hours, 16 flights were delayed compared to 1 the day before. At the peak across the country, delays neared 600. The delays from MSP you can see are going to the hardest hit airports like Denver, Boston, and San Francisco. Impacts are reaching far beyond the airport as the shutdown enters day 9. Today, nearly half of the IRS workforce is being furloughed. That's 34,000 employees. That means the agency will have to pause many services, including answering phone calls, as taxpayers prepare to file on the extension deadline of October 15th. By the way, that deadline still applies in a shutdown. This morning, we now know multiple parents are accusing a 22-year-old of sexually assaulting students at White Bear Lake High School. The district says Kelvin Lubke pretended to be a student enrolled at the school with fake documents. We learned the new details from a search warrant application that asks the judge to let investigators search Lubke's phone for evidence of any crimes. The warrants also allege a school resource officer is investigating a claim that Lubke got nude photos from a juvenile girl. The warrant says the investigation started when a woman told police her daughter recognized him from a mugshot on social media. The family he was living with is speaking out about the allegations for the first time. Their identity is concealed due to safety concerns.
I've lectured him. It's like, no, you're over 18, and if you're messing around with girls that are under 18, that's a crime, period. You need to not do that.
So did that lecture come after the news reports came out?
That's been since he started staying here.
Lebke isn't facing any charges in this case yet. White Bear Lake superintendent says Lebke enrolled as a 17-year-old homeless, unaccompanied youth and presented a birth certificate from another country. Right now, Minneapolis police are looking for the suspect in a deadly shooting we brought you as breaking news on Sunrise yesterday morning. They're also calling on Bar Zia to reevaluate its security. Police say multiple fights broke out just before midnight at the bar, which is just blocks from U.S. Bank Stadium. They say the fight escalated and someone opened fire. Police say a 21-year-old man died at the scene. 3 others who were shot were taken to the hospital and are expected to survive. When addressing the violence, Chief Brian O'Hara said the police and bar had worked together to enhance security just 2 years ago.
Those measures, it appeared, had resolved those issues at the time. However, in the last few weeks, there has been an increase in calls for service related to this bar, and we are working with bar management to evaluate security.
We checked right before the newscast, and there is no update right now on any arrests. Police ask anyone with information to call them. This morning, we're learning police have identified more victims in the Annunciation Church shooting, bringing the total number to 30. That includes Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel, who were killed in the attack. Minneapolis police say that number went up after they learned about victims who went to the hospital on their own. Police originally reported 23 victims. Right now, faith leaders across Minnesota are demanding a special session on guns. More than 700 clergy members brought their message to the state capitol and delivered a letter to Governor Walz yesterday asking for a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in response to the Annunciation shooting. However, a ban like this could face a tough road ahead. In the tied House, Republican leaders say they won't support bringing an assault weapons ban to the floor for a vote. And in the Senate, it's not clear if the narrow DFL majority would have the votes for a ban to pass. Faith leaders, though, say they're not going to stop trying.
We're remembering. We want this to change, and we're not going to let this one go.
Governor Walz is supportive of an assault weapons ban, but yesterday said that he's not going to call a special session until Republicans allow a floor vote. This morning, we have a sad update in Sartell. The police chief says the 12-year-old boy who crashed while riding his bike died peacefully yesterday after being taken off life support. Officials say Raghav Shrestha, a 7th grader, was wearing a helmet but was severely hurt in the crash. In the chief's update, he said Raghav's parents shared that he was always courageous and took pride in being a big brother. Right now, Minneapolis police is boosting patrols at places of worship after Temple Israel was vandalized early yesterday morning. The acting U.S. attorney says the FBI is investigating it as a hate crime. The Temple says it happened around 2:30 in the morning with threats spray painted outside the building. Rabbi Marcia Zimmerman says it's more than anti-Semitism, and Chief Brian O'Hara says it won't be tolerated.
Hate crimes and acts targeting sacred spaces strike at the very heart of who we are as a community. These acts are meant to instill fear and division, and we will not tolerate them.
The temple says they'll remain open for the Holy Festival. Right now, crews are battling a wildfire in northern Minnesota that officials say has grown to 35 acres. It's on the east side of George Crosby Manitou State Park, which is about a half an hour north of Duluth. The park has a lot of, or I should say an hour and a half north of Duluth. The park has a lot of remote campsites and is popular for people looking to see fall colors. This morning, it is not clear what caused that fire. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.